Welcome back, gamers. It is now February, probably when this is going up, and of course, a very hype release day for Global because you're getting two sets and getting a whole free box of Fighter Selection, which is very good value, and I'm glad that Global kept that as well. So today we're doing kind of like part 2 of the set breakdown, talking about the actual, Fighter Collection and all the cards in it. And unfortunately, I talked about the cool search function that Zero has now to search by sets. You can't select Fighter Selection for whatever reason, which is really dumb. So we're gonna have to go through it card by card, like page by page, which is gonna be a bit overwhelming, but luckily I just wrapped up reviewing set 3, so it shouldn't be that bad. But anyway, without any further ado, let's just get into it, right? Let's just talk about all the cards in this set, because there's some exciting ones, some disappointing ones, and of course, stuff in between, right? As you should know, you get the Stride Fodders and countercharging PGs, and there's some Cray Elementals in this as well in the set that we'll talk about. We don't need to talk about those because they all do the same. For Cray Elementals, I guess we can go over what you got. Basically, you have this guy who is the Peaker, who says GB1 when your Vanguard is being attacked. If the attacked unit's power is 10k or lower, it gets plus 1k, so it becomes 11k. But most importantly, he can retype your opponent's card effects. So if you ever don't know what to put into your grade 1 slots, resist. Always good, right? It's always going to be good. And then there's also this guy, which is Madu. Madu says when placed on Vanguard Circle, if your heart card's total power is 10k or lower, or if there's a card among your hearts that has 10k or lower power, so like a Legion mate, then you can choose a grade 3 in your drop and add it to your hand. So it literally refunds strike costs, which is very nice, and lets you loop legions and stuff like that, which is also pretty appreciated. I would say it's pretty appreciated. Where the hell is Mr. Harmonics Messiah, though? Am I blind? There he is, Mr. Harmonics Messiah. Everyone gets a free one as well on the 1st of February. When placed on Vanguard Circle, choose any number of locked cards and unlock them. But for every one that you unlocked, discard one. So this is your counter to Link Joker. Every G-Zone is usually carrying one of these because it doesn't want to die to Link Joker. So that's your Cray Elemental spice for the day. Now let's talk about the strides. We're not going to talk about stride fodders and PGs. You got that already, it's fine. Let's talk about strides in this set. So starting off with Royals, there's two triples. One is Religious Soul Saver. So this one is a once per turn if your heart is a blaster. G Persona Blast, which for triple is fine. And then for that turn, you choose 3 units and give them plus 5k. So it lets you buff up and hit over defensives. And then if you have 2 or more blasters in your soul, he gets a crit. Or she gets a crit rather. So MLB support, it's pretty good for MLB. That's literally it. It's a pretty decent card. And then Sanctuary Guard Regalier is in this set too. If your heart is a Sanctuary Guard, then for every grade 1 or lower rear guard you have, your front row units gain plus 3k. So this was very busted in the CCG. It was literally a top meta deck that had to be restricted. In Zero so far it's not. And we already had another wave of Sanctuary Guard support in Zero, and it's still not really making waves. So it's okay. It's okay, it's okay. That's basically how it is. Then for OTT, we have a couple of strides, I guess. I'm missing one card that I destroyed. So first we have a double rare, which is this guy. At the end of the battle, you attack the Vanguard, count +1, and return up to 3 cards from your hand back to your deck. And then if you did, draw 1 for each, which is cool. It's like a mulligan, but in stride, And then there's a Tsukuyomi stride that I only pulled 1 SP of, and I got rid of it. Once per turn, if your heart is a Tsukuyomi, G Persona Blast, G Persona Blast, we don't like that. And then you can put a Tsukuyomi from your hand into your soul, look at the top 5 cards of your deck, and add 2 of them to your hand, put the rest on the bottom of your deck. So accelerates your stack, you hit it sooner, and also add card to hand. Very good. We like add card to hand. Good effect, right? So that's OTT. Pretty okay, pretty decent. Then for Shadows, we got a couple cards. We have, of course, the Ebonition, which says when placed on Vanguard Circle, retire one of your rear guards to give him plus 7k and the following ability. When seconds of Vanguard, retire one of your opponent's rear guards. So good generic stride, pops an opponent's annoying back row, which is pretty good. And then of course we have the Draglular Revenant, pretty meh card, but you can search out Doran once per turn. If your heart is a Revenger, retire one of your rear guards, search deck for a grade 1 lower Revenger and call it, and then for that turn, that unit and this unit gain plus 3k. So it's a Doran Searcher, literally just a Doran Searcher. There's not much else to it in my opinion. For golds, we have a very good double rare and of course the Scourge Point Dragon. When your rear guard is placed from deck, for that turn, this unit and that unit gain plus 5k. So this combos off well with Quill, which lets you, call something mid-battle and then you power it up after, with Scourge Point, which lets you hit over defensives, which is very, very good. And we have the Azel Stride, which is Mithril Azel, which is once per turn if your heart is an Azel, count +1 G Persona Blast, G Persona Blast. And then unlock all of your lock cards and look at the top 5 cards of your deck, call one of them, and then for that turn, that unit and this unit, increase this unit's power by that unit's power, and then yeah, that's all he does. So he basically count +1 G Persona to unlock and call one. So a stride that can unlock is pretty cool, but most Azels can do that already, so it's not like insanely good. For Angels, we have some really good stuff too. We have Uriel, which is a must-have in Gavriel as a one-up. When attack hits a Vanguard, you can look at the top 3 cards of your deck and put one of them into your damage zone, and then choose a card from your damage zone and call it, and for that turn give the unit plus 2k. If you call the face down, then the card you put into your damage zone will also be a face down. So it enables at least a 4th attack, which is good, you know, for Angels already, even in this set, but it gets better in set 4. And then Celestials. Ooh, Celestials are top meta in JP0 right now, and this stride is a really good first stride, which is the Mikael. Once per turn, if your heart is a Celestial, count almost 1, look at top 3 of your deck, put 1 into damage zone, and then call a card from your damage zone, and then give that unit plus 5k. If you call the face down on the card you put also goes face down. And then if you have a card in your damage zone that's the same name as your heart card, face up or face down, this unit gets a crit. So this is really good in Celestials because you can just keep like run 8 legions, and then like you have a strong first stride, and then in set 4 you get Raphael, which heals you. You have a bunch of really good strides, right? So that's why in set 4 with the proper angel support, very good card, very good card. Genesis got 2 really good strides in this set as well, which is first Doombrace. Doombrace is a must-have. Like, it's only a double rare, really must-have for Genesis. Once per turn, Soul lasts 3. For that turn, 2 of your reguards get plus 5k, and if you have 2 or less Soul charge 3. So if you have 5 Soul, basically, you can power up your field and also refund to go back up to 5 Soul, which is pretty good. It's a nice stride to have because it's just like, you know, it fills up your Soul with Chamomiles and stuff like that. And there's a Regalia stride, which says when it attacks the Vanguard, if your heart is a Regalia, count almost 1, and then for each of your hearts, Soul charge 3 and counter charge 1. So it's a cool way to just come back after using a big Yggdrasil turn where you Soul blasted 6 and don't have any Soul anymore. So basically this way you can just refund the 6 Soul and then use Yggdrasil again next turn. So I think honestly, like, Yggdrasil has potential. I wanted to cover this deck already in a deck and fight, but I didn't really have time yet, so soon TM, same, like, I'm gonna tell you what decks I'm still gonna cover. I'm still gonna do Sanctuary Guard at some point. I've already done Blasters. I'm not gonna do Tsukuyomi. I will not do Azel. I will do Celestials, 100%. That's still coming. And I might do CEO Yggdrasil, maybe. I'll definitely do Fenrir, though. Goddamn, Fenrir is very cool. Then we have Kagero. Kagero got really cool support. First, we have Zam, who says when your other opponent's rearguard is... Sorry, when your opponent's rearguard is retired by your other card's ability, you can count +1 to retire an opponent's rearguard. So you stride this over Blademaster. Blademaster pops front row, he pops the other one. So literally CB2 kill 2, which is really good for a first stride, especially if you're on a budget and you don't have the GR from set 1, right? It's really good. And then finally we have Dragonic Overlord, the ace. Sadly not incredible, but it's generic. In Blademaster you play the great, so that kind of helps, right? GB2 once per turn, count +2 in Persona Blast, G Persona Blast. He loses 1 drive and gains the following ability. Once per turn at the end of the battle he attacked, you can discard 2 cards including at least 1 Overlord, and then stand this unit, draw 1, and he gains plus 5k. So it's pretty bad, because it's like, you only drive check 2 with him, and you discard 2 to draw 1. It's like, it's not even a cycle. It's kind of... It's pretty strict, but you can run it in Blademaster when you have, like, you know, you're playing as resistance stuff to actually, like, have an option to go into something when your opponent has a bunch of resists, you know, when they don't have anything in the back row to pop with the Root Flare. So it's cool how generic it is, I guess, because you just have to discard an Overlord, including the 2 from the 2 cards, so it's not too bad. It's not too bad. It's one of the better GRs in this set, I would say. Then, looking at Tachis, we have the Arc Raider, literally Dynezanon. When it attacks the Vanguard, retire one of your reguards to get 5k in the following ability. When it attacks a Vanguard, choose an opponent's reguard and retire it. It's okay. It's okay. Triggers on retire effects and pop something, which is cool. But this guy, the PP Laser, very good. PP Laser says when placed on Vanguard Circle, if your heart is a Ancient Dragon, I believe, you can call a card from your hand to Rearguard Circle, and then you choose 1 rearguard from both players and retire them. And for that turn, increase this unit's power by the combined powers of those units. And then if you increase his power by 20k or more, he gains a crit. So it's cool. You kill one of, like, your 9k or 11k, and then your opponent's 9k or 11k, and then boom, he has a crit. You know, it's not too bad. Tachi honestly got a pretty cool pair of strides, but Nubatam actually has some really good ones. On hit Vanguard, count +1, start of your opponent's next turn, they have to discard 1. That's pretty good already, but this is even better. So this guy says when he attacks the Vanguard, count +2, Soul last 1, choose an opponent's rearguard and bind it. and then if your opponent has 3 or more cards in hand, your opponent randomly binds a card from hand. And if your heart is, I think, a stealth dragon, if I'm not mistaken, then all of those cards go to drop zone instead. And if you do not have him that heart, then at the end of that turn, the binded cards go back to their hand. So it's a really good card. It literally pops an opponent's pops an opponent's rear. It doesn't pop intercept, he has to attack Vanguard, but then he also pops an opponent's hand, which is pretty good on top of everything else that you're doing in Nubatama. So good stride. Very, very, very good stride. Then for more Kumo, we have the really good Kage Magician. He's once per turn when your rearguard is placed. If you have the same name as that unit for that turn, give the unit plus 2k and it can attack from the back row. So basically, have 2 copies, make something attack from back row, which is pretty strong. It's pretty strong. And we have a Shidoyuki Stride, which says when placed on Vanguard Circle, search your deck for a card with the same name as your heart and call it, which is generic, by the way. Pretty good. And then if your heart is a Shidoyuki, at the end of the turn, that unit goes back to your hand, and then you discard 1. If it's not Shidoyuki, then that unit goes back to your bottom of your deck at the end of the turn. So it makes a multi-attack, and even if you if you call your heart the trigger, right, so you want to put it back to the deck to not, decompress your triggers. So it's not a bad card at all. Definitely quite nice. We have this a noble. When it attacks the Vanguard, for each of your noble rear guards, randomly retire one of your opponent's rear guards prioritizing the back row, and then if you retire them, you bind them, and if you bound 3 or more, this unit gains a crit. It's funny. It's funny. Then we have, of course, a Big Bang Knuckle Turbo. Not as good as he was in TCG, but still quite strong. Once per turn, if your heart is a Big Bang Knuckle, count +1, soul +1, and flip it in each unit face up. And then for that turn, for every face up Big Bang Knuckle, he gets +5k. So it's not really important to flip that many face up. And then gains the following ability. This unit can attack all of your opponent's front row in 1 attack. If you have 2 hearts, though, you can choose 1 more unit to attack. So he basically, if you're in Legion, he attacks the same amount as the Big Bang Knuckle, cross ride, right? So it attacks 4, but even then, count +1, soul +1 for front row attack. Pretty good in my books. I think it's a good stride as well. For Novas, we have a nice retire option for Victor. So once per turn, when your rearguard stands by your card's ability, count +1, for that turn, that unit gains +2k, and you can choose an opponent's unit with less power than that rearguard and retire it. So it's pretty good. It's literally a retire option in Victor, which you never had before. It's a cool one-of that you can run. It's pretty annoying against some decks in particular, so that's good to keep in mind. And then there's the Ashura Kaiser stride, which is a thing. Once per turn, if your heart is an Ashura, you can choose a grade 3 from your drop and put it back to your deck, and then for that turn, gain the following ability. When you drive check a grade 3, stand all of your rear guards. I'm starting to have little PTSD to a certain era in the game's history when this card was very good. Then for DP, we have a very bad card and a very good card. We have the Pretty Cat. Once per turn, when I cannot speak, sorry. Once per turn, when her power is 4k, sorry, not 35, 34k or higher, count +1 for that turn, choose an opponent's unit and give it -5k. And if the power went down to 0 or below, then it dies, it gets retired. So not very good. It's hard to reach that power threshold, but you know what's not bad? It's what's very good actually is Heavy Duke. Literally made Metalborgs in meta deck, which is a Metalborg stride that says when it attacks the Vanguard, if your heart is a Metalborg, count +2 to gain the following ability. When it attacks the Vanguard, for each of your hearts, draw 1. So if you have 2, because of Legion, you draw 2. Very good. And then during that battle, when your opponent with Sentinel, they have to randomly discard a grade 3 or greater from their hand, otherwise they cannot Sentinel. And then if you have 2 hearts, he gains a crit. It's pretty good. Pretty good. CB2 to have a 26k with a crit that has to be gloried, and if it hits you draw 2. That's really, really good. Even if you struggle stride by discarding 2, it refunds that, which is super sick. Very good card. 100% recommend picking up 100%. And then a very amazing stride for a Link Joker that literally made Messiah's meta for the first time is the Maximum Seal Dragon. When it attacks the Vanguard, count +1 for that turn. For each locked card between you and your opponent, your front row units gain +5k. So you can abuse this by having a bunch of Awakens locked in your back row, and then have the Blast Monk that unlocks whenever he attacks. You power him up at 30k or something, or not 30, but 20 or 25, and he keeps restanding, unlocking, and keeps swinging with big power. It's literally a Shuramon reborn, which is high rolly but strong. And we have a Glendios stride. So once per turn, if your heart is a Glendios, count +2 and G Persona Blast. And then at the beginning of your opponent's next turn, gain the following 2 abilities, or do the following 2 abilities. For each of your reverse rearguards, your opponent puts the top card of their deck on rearguard circle as locked. So that's pretty good. And then if you have 5 or more cards in damage, all of your opponent's locked units cannot unlock, which is also pretty good. But of course, gets cucked by the Messiah generic stride, but still, it's a grandiose stride. It's cool for deck out, I guess. You can try to deck out your opponent, but CB2 can be quite heavy for that too. But otherwise, it's all right. You know, it's a cool grandiose option. Then for DI, we have Demagogue, which says during your main phase, when a card is put into your soul for that turn, gain the following ability. All of your front row units get plus 1k. So literally just mass soul charge and make a huge front row, and boom, 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 swing, 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 GG's. That's kind of how it works. It's not that great, but it's fine. The Amon stride is actually pretty cool. Once per turn, if your heart is an Amon, cost 1, and then for every 5 cards in your soul, 2 of your Amon rearguards gain plus 3k, and then if you have 5 or more soul, you randomly retire an opponent's rearguard, prioritizing the back row, and then if you have 10 or more soul, then he gets a crit, and if you have 15 or more soul, choose an opponent's rearguard and retire it. So he retires 2 and gains a crit and powers up your field for 1 counterblast, which is pretty good. For 1 card to do all that, it's pretty strong, I would say. It's pretty strong, I would say. Then for spikes, we have Flash Bruce, so Bruce's future self or younger self. When you attack as a Vanguard, you can put a card from your hand to your soul, search your deck for any card you want and call it, and then give that unit plus 5k. So it's a 4th attack enabler. It's not bad, has to hit, but it's really not that bad. Also gives you soul. And then we have Dudley Geronimo. Once per turn, apparently this card is quite good. I keep hearing from people. If your heart is a Dudley, cost 1 G per Sonoblast and gain the following ability. When your rearguard attacks for that battle, give it 5k. At the end of the battle, put it to the bottom of the deck. And then if you have 2 or more face up in your G zone, he gets the following ability, which is when your your rearguard can attack your opponent's Vanguard from the back row. So hella attacks, and they're all powered up, which is pretty good when they're at 5, I guess. It can be pretty overwhelming, I suppose. So yeah, Spike's got some cool cards too. Pilemon got some good cards as well, which Clifford is one of them. When an attack hits a Vanguard, you can choose a grade 2 or lower from your soul and call it and give it plus 2k. So it's another attack enabler on top of Marichka in Silverthorns. And of course, speaking of Silverthorns, we have Mystique Lukier, who says once per turn, if your heart is a Lukier, put 2 rearguards into your soul charge 2, and then choose 2 Silverthorns from your soul and call them. So lets you put random whatever into your soul to call out Marichkas and Annas and Zelmas and stuff like that. So this put Pilemon back on the map, by the way. Just these 2 strides put Pilemon back on the map competitively, so I would playtest that if I were you. Definitely don't sleep on it. Then for gears, we have Upheaval Pegasus, which is a good anti-resist option. When placed in Vanguard Circle, if your heart is a Chrono Jet, then if you're put all of your opponent's grade 1 or greater rearguards back to the deck, and then your opponent randomly calls rearguards with the same grade from the top of their deck to the same rearguard circles. So it will call the same grades to the same spots. You know, it won't like randomly call 5. But you try to resist columns with this, basically, which is good to have as a one-of. And then we have Epoch Maker, which isn't really good. When attack hits a Vanguard, you bind one of your rearguards, and then search your deck for grade 3 and call it. At the end of the turn, put that unit back to deck, and if you did, the card you bound as a cost gets called back. So it's literally just like bind one of your rears, call a Chrono Jet, and then goes back. So it's like a 4th attack enabler, but it's not really worth it. Like maybe it's a one-of if you pulled it, but otherwise don't sweat it. Don't sweat it. Don't worry about it. Then we have Blue Heart. Once per turn, cost 1, and then choose 2 cards from your drop zone and call them to occupied rearguard circles, which is not so good in 0 right now, so look out for Night Rose, I guess. And then we have a Cocutus Stride. Once per turn, if your heart is a Cocutus, cost 1, and mill the top 3 cards of your deck, and then choose a card from your drop zone and call it. And then if you call the Cocutus by this ability, you can choose an opponent's rearguard and retire it. And if you have and choose 1 grade 1 or lower from your drop zone and call it and give it plus 4k. So this does everything it can to not call grade 2s, which is pretty fascinating. I also just noticed I can craft almost 4 triples for Grand Blue, which is kind of nice. Not too bad, not too bad. So yeah, that's Grand Blue. The Cocutus Stride is actually quite decent. Blue Heart, I'm not that impressed with. Moving on to, of course, Bermuda, we have the when you stride her, bounce 2 of your rearguards back to your hand to reuse on place effects, I guess. And then we have Nectaria, which is played as a one-of in quite a few decks, mostly duos. When attack gets a Vanguard, choose one of your rearguards, and bounce it to hand. And if your heart is a Prism, then you can call 1 from hand and give it plus 5k. But if your heart is a duo, then you can search your deck for a card with the same name as the card you bounce and add it to your hand. So in duos, this is just there to bounce your PGs, of course, and search them as usual. So yeah, it's another PG search. Who would have thought? Then Aqua Force, I'm getting a really dry throat from all this talking. When your unit attacks a Vanguard, if it's the third or more battle of the turn, count +1 and give it plus 5k. Actually terrible, actually terrible. And then we have, of course, the Admiral Maelstrom. When it attacks the Vanguard, if it's the fourth or more battle of the turn, if your heart is the Maelstrom, count +1 and flip a unit face up. And then draw 1, and for if you have a face, for each face-up Admiral Maelstrom in your G-Zone, choose an opponent's rearguard and retire it. And then if you have a Maelstrom in your soul, gain a crit. So count +1 for a draw, potential retire. In my case, I only have one copy of this card, so no. And a crit, it's not too bad, but I feel like the Maelstroms already do a lot as it is. Then we have Mega Colony, very good support. This not so much. On hit Vanguard, choose an opponent's back row and front row rearguard and paralyze them. Usually there's no front row to paralyze, so it's kind of whatever. But this card, Machining Destroyer, got nerfed, but it's still really good. Once per turn, if your heart is a machining, count +2, and choose one of your opponent's rearguards and paralyze it. And then, if you have 4 or more machining rearguards, and all of your opponent's rearguards are resting, then you paralyze your opponent's Vanguard. So it's not the same as the Mantis, the War Sickle rather, that forces your opponent to like discard 1 before they ride again. This they can ride immediately, but Vanguard Paralyzed is still pretty good on top of paralyzing opponent's rear, so this card is definitely a good pickup for Mega Colony, I would say. And then for Great Nature, also some good stuff. We have the On Hit, which is on hit Vanguard, draw 1 and give a unit plus, so give a rearguard plus 4k. Not as great, but the Leopold Stride is really good. So Leopold Chaser, when it attacks, if your heart is a Leopold, choose a rearguard and stand it, and then give it plus 4k in the following ability. At the end of the turn, retire this unit, and then call this card to an empty rearguard circle. So literally 4th attack enabler for no CB, also powers it up, also recalls it when it dies. Like, this is a really good stride for Great Nature right now, and I think it's definitely worth playing. So big thumbs up. And finally, we have Neo Nectar. Arboreal was not in this set. We have the Multivitamin Dragon. So when your rearguard is placed for that turn, give all of your units with the same name as that unit, except for that unit that you just called, gain 5k. So it's kind of like the Gold Paladin double rare stride. It's okay, I've seen people go into it. And then we have, of course, the Cecilia Stride, who is a once per turn, if your heart is a Cecilia, count +1 and retire a Musketeer Rearguard, and then look at top 5 and call up to 3. Sorry, call up to 3 Musketeer Rearguards. And then if for the cost of this ability you retire the like grade 3 Cecilia, and I think it's like if you retired it and called it? I can't remember, but she gains a crit. So it's okay, but her being restricted to Cecilia is pretty bad, like, because most Musketeers are not Cecilia anymore, so it's a little bit unfortunate. But yeah, those are all the strides in Fighters Collection. It's a very impactful set. Like, not much stuff is like super meta defining outside of a select few, and the GRs are mostly very average, but it's nice that we get a full free box. You get all the doubles and play sets, and the triples you get at least 2 of, so it's also very good. Of course, the packs are more expensive, but it's a good way to farm GR materials, which is also pretty cool. But otherwise, yeah, like, this set is pretty nice. It gives a lot of support to everything because it supports every single clan. So yeah, have fun with it. It's honestly an enjoyable set. So yeah, in terms of other decks that I haven't covered yet that I still plan to cover in the future, we talked about Fenrir. Updated Blade Master / The End. I don't know if people want to see that, but it could be done theoretically. Nubatama as well, I kind of want to cover at some point. Murakumo, I still need to do Yasuya at some point. We've done most of these. D-Robos are coming. Don't worry, D-Robos are coming. Metalborgs were already done. And then, of course, like, Glendios, I'm not sure. It's a pain. Amon, yes, I do want to cover as well. And then, of course, Silverthorns I also want to cover, so that's going to come up at some point as well. Yeah, that's about it, more or less. Maybe Leopold would be kind of fun to play around with, but that's about it, I think. So yeah, there you go, guys. That is the Fighters Collection analysis. Let me know which decks are you building. Sorry, I can't speak today, as you can probably hear. Let me know which decks you're building from this set in the comments below, because there's a lot of really cool stuff to experiment with, and it definitely diversifies the meta a lot. So it makes the game pretty fun, that's for sure. It makes the game a lot more fun to climb in, especially because of the diverse meta. So do look forward to it. But yeah, otherwise, that's basically it. If you liked the video, please give it a like, and if you haven't already, please do subscribe. And otherwise, I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.